Camera, why can't I access my camera?
We can see you, Arlene. Can't hear you, but we can see you.
Arlene, you're
I'm
on
not
mute.
saying-
Oh, there you are.
Yep, I took me off mute.
Okay. Hi, everybody. All right, let's start. So, can we have a motion to, oh, Sue just texted saying she is not going to join today, but we have a quorum. So can we have a motion to call the meeting to order?
I'll call them. I move to call the meeting to order.
All right, Arlene, can we have a second?
Whoops.
I think Gil just did.
Oh, I'll second. I was on mute. I'm sorry.
Good. All right, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, excellent. Any opposed? All right, we are in order and starting the meeting. Eunice, maybe we can get the agenda back up. Otherwise, I can just go find it.
Okay, I'll get it.
Why isn't my camera?
That'd be great. But I believe the first agenda item was approval of the last meeting's minutes. So has everyone had a chance to look over the meeting's minutes from the minutes of the last meeting? And any objections or changes to the meetings from the minutes from the last meeting?
No.
Everyone good with the meeting of the last minutes?
Yep.
All right, good. So if we're good to approve that, why don't we take a motion to approve the last minutes and then we can move on.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Gil.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Arlene. Well, you two are the fantastic motion givers. All in favor of approving the meetings from the last minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Terrific. Great. Let's move on. So I know we have a guest speaker and I guess she's not here yet. Christina?
Doesn't look like it.
No, I don't believe so.
Can I
All
just give
right.
a little background on that? I don't know if I could talk yet. It's not my turn, but.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Christina had reached out to me. She is the founder and director of the Torrington area Families for Autism. So she asked to meet with me and I had her and there was someone else from her group and the IFS director, Tyrone Mecanico. We met with her to learn a little bit more about the organization. And she wanted to get out and do more reach out. So I suggested this group. I'm also going to put a group together of the Torrington area staff, case managers, and other stakeholders to hear more about her program. It sounds like they're doing a lot of great things, a lot of community activities, parties, dances, getting families together, and it's all ages. I had not heard of it before, so it was great to hear more about them. And I'm not sure, Eunice, when have you heard from her recently, or just the initial invite?
I heard from her after the invite once after to confirm, and I was trying to look for her phone number now to ensure she was going to participate, and I don't see a phone number. I only have an email.
All right. So that's the backdrop as to how come she's on our agenda. I had suggested to Chuck to see if he was interested in having her come to present.
Marina,
Yes.
isn't there a similar organization or a startup kind of group in Westport that they met? And I don't know if we've talked about that or had someone come and present from that group.
So I was going to say, it reminded me a little bit of Club 203, which
Right.
is the group you're thinking about. And that is for adults only, so not all ages. And it is not disability specific, so it's not autism only, but it
Right.
is all disabilities and, 18 and up. I think is 18 and up or 21 and up. But anyway, yeah, founded by.
We have an event tonight, Marina.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they've just gone great guns. It's an amazing group founded by three parents,
Did your
and
kids go?
they're not close enough locally anymore. So unfortunately, they don't live nearby enough to participate. But what about you? Has yours,
Yeah, no,
Karen?
we're going, this will be my first time going. I've
Nice.
never gone, so I do want to try it. It's some kind of field day, so we'll see.
Fantastic. They've been doing a really good job. They have monthly events and, with a nicely curated group, one time it'll be a movie night, one time it'll be a dance, one time it'll be, like just different things every time. And they've been really well received. I think they've had like 110 people at some events, like really
Wow.
and it's not just like a Westport thing. It's Fairfield County. People are coming
Yeah.
from all over the place. So super.
Yeah. I wish my daughter lived closer, but she doesn't. So
Yeah. No, it's great. It's nice to have activities to do, as there are too few of them for our young adults. So
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
so it's great. So do we think that she's going to join? Or was she just calling in later, or do we know?
She was going to be participating right at 4 o'clock from what I understood, but let me see if I can find a number to call her.
Okay.
She needed a reminder. Like
All
my
right.
little Alexa, it says, meeting.
All right. Hopefully she still will, because it sounds like it's worth hearing about. So Chuck usually gives a chair's report. I don't have a chair's report, so I guess we will move on to the director's report.
Okay. So at the last meeting, there was a couple of items that the group had brought up and asked that I follow up on. And one of them was new membership, both family, interested party in the group, or and an individual. So Lori, I believe, reached out to Ms. Textera, who's present for tonight's meeting. So welcome.
Welcome,
And,
Emily. Yeah. Anyone who joined after the first few minutes, we should say, hi, Emily.
Thank you.
and right now, DDS case managers and other parties are looking to see if we can get an individual who's interested. A couple of names have come forward, so I'm waiting, and then I'll talk further with, I guess, Chuck. I'm not really sure, being new, how that process works. If there is an individual or more families that are interested, is there a process that I need to implement as the regional director, or do I just go to the chair of the RAC committee? Is that traditionally what's been done?
The name is usually presented to the group, and then some information is shared about the individual, and then the committee votes on it.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
You're
I
welcome.
wasn't aware of what the process was. Hi, Lori.
Hi, sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. I had to get my daughter to help me, but apologize for being late.
And then the second topic that you had asked for follow-up, we were talking about, Lori actually had brought it up, was day programs that had clinical supports. Lori had mentioned a program in the South region, I believe it was Woodbridge, Allie's Dream. So I looked into that, and what I learned was that there was one individual who was receiving supports that the physical therapy and occupational therapy that the family was paying for. So it wasn't that that person was on the OT or PT were on staff, or they were contracting out. It was that the family was making arrangements for those clinicians to come into the day program. I also followed up with Star because Mickey had shared that his daughter was receiving services, and I received further clarification on that. It was clinicians that had done initial training. It wasn't ongoing PT and OT. I then asked all my resource management staff to look into their providers, one of them being Marina. You had suggested that St. Catherine's might be doing something, and currently they're not.
Interesting.
So far, I'm hearing that there aren't providers that are doing that. If anything's being done, it's done through a special arrangement with the family. So if I hear any more, if they get any additional information, I'll definitely share it with the group. So I think those were the two items that I had said that I would follow up with the committee, and then I can move on to regional updates and where we're at in the region. Positions. Oh, go ahead, Arlene.
May I just ask, as you said, there are some providers who are doing it, but are they doing it as part of their staff or
No.
also paid by the parents?
They're being paid by the parents.
Okay.
So, positions. I wanted to give an update on case management. When I started in this position, we had 12 vacancies due to retirement and a bunch of people out on medical leave. Right now, as of this morning, we're currently at 7 vacancies. I was hoping we'd be a little bit more ahead, but people, they're moving to other positions in other regions. So we continue to constantly we're playing catch up on that. In addition, I have 2 people that are out on medical leave. So every month I meet with our supervisors to discuss cases and moving them off the helpline, which is one of my biggest concerns for the group of individuals who are graduating and are going to need a day program, trying to get a case manager in place sooner than later. And it has been a struggle, just in terms of capacity and case management's caseload. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to move forward at the next job fair and have those case management positions filled. We're anticipating we're going to get a 4th position on our helpline, which will be a big help for the families, because right now we're struggling with the amount of calls that are coming in and how big the helpline's caseload is. It's well over 2,000 people that are managed with 3 case managers. So it's usually when somebody needs something or somebody's in crisis. So we're looking at the helpline in general, it can be a better support to families, but the resources are minimal right now. The caregiver initiative, we dropped the term elderly. We're calling it the caregiver initiative now. We're monitoring right now all the funding that's been granted, and hoping that people will get supports in place, or if they're looking for a group home, that will happen before the end of the fiscal year. There's been a lot of pressure for case managers and resource management to follow up with the families to make sure that they can get the services in place or the money held in a budget so they don't lose that funding. One of the concerns around anyone that wants a group home placement right now is we have the funding, but there's not the availability or the staffing to support the individual in the group home. So we're struggling a little bit around that. And that goes to what Karen is always advocating for, is the staffing shortage that we're seeing statewide.
Yeah.
Again, some providers are reporting that they're seeing a little bit of an improvement, and then other providers are saying they're not. I think it, again, depends on the location of, where their agency and their services are located in. I think we have better success with providers that are in the bigger city areas, but not necessarily always the case.
We're competing a lot with the care.coms that for, seniors, not disabled seniors, but just seniors in general looking for home health care aides and everything. We're all in the same boat. So it's, wow.
Yeah,
it's getting better. I did get a new case manager today because my case manager got promoted. So that was good because my poor old case manager was doing like 3 jobs, I think. So I'm hoping that'll work out now.
Was that Rachel?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I knew she was going to be promoted. I think I announced to this group, she's just too good. I said, I'm going to lose her. I know I'm going to lose her, but her replacement sounds wonderful too. So fingers crossed.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, Rachel is excellent. We're lucky to have her in the region. Maybe you lost her as a case manager, but at least she's still with us
Yes.
in the region. So
Yes,
I
yes.
enjoy working with her. So that's what's going on with the caregiver initiative. There was an email, and Eunice, help me out. Was it released, the step forums that are Jordan and Elisa are leading? I know we were asked to let the RAC committee.
I sent that email out. Everyone should
Okay.
have received it.
Okay. So I think the majority, they're in May, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So, and there's also a conference that's coming up, One Voice. It's sponsored by the Family Support Network. And that is May 11th. There's going to be some guest speakers and some tables set up. We're coordinating a table right now in our region. It's probably going to be CCH, self-direction, in assisted technology. The conference is going to be in Haddam. I'm not sure why that location was selected, because that's actually in the North region. I think they may rotate regions, if I understood correctly. I think last year it may have been in the South region, or the last time they have it. They may have not had it last year because of COVID. So more on that, and we'll get that out to this committee as well. We're continuing to work on our transformation with ARPA. We have about 4 providers in the West region that have submitted proposals that we're working with those agencies on now. There's a few that are looking to do residential projects, and I believe there are 2 that are looking to do day support projects. So they're working with the consultant and trying to narrow it down, the details. And once we have more information, I'll share that, but it's kind of a work in progress right now.
Can you
just describe
this is
what
like
that
the
is?
biggest deal. This is the biggest deal that's come to DDS in just decades, I think.
good.
You know, like if you think of, so ARPA being like all the COVID survival money that came down from the government, right? So ARPA, the moving on thing, and STEP are all kind of the same thing, right? And so if you think of this pot of money that's been handed to DDS to transform itself, this is huge and being used in what seems like a giant, substantial way. It's kind of exciting. So
it is exciting. I think some of this apprehension from some of the providers is the staffing, unfortunately. You know, and so we're trying to work with some providers on moving beyond that. But it's real. I mean, you know, it depends on their location. So that's some of the feedback we're getting from. We were hoping we were going to have more providers involved, but at one point, you know, we had like 1. So I'm thrilled that we have 4 now that are expressing interest. And I think once we see those projects take off, there might be more interest.
Can you just describe one of the projects, the kind of projects? I think I missed the last meeting. What kind of project, and does it cost them money?
We're going to be giving them money through the ARPA funding initiative. So the plan is, or what the goal is, that we move people onto less restrictive settings or employment opportunities, and we're providing funding to do that. I mean, in some cases, we've had providers that want to like close a group home down and move people on. So we're working with them on that. We've had another provider who's interested in, they have a setting that has condominiums that they own that are now licensed as CLAs, but what they're looking to do is move those to supported housing options. So they would, you know, individuals would be in less restrictive settings.
I see.
So there's a lot of room to be creative, you know, and providers are doing different things and just trying to figure it out. So
yeah, that is huge.
Yes, it is. I just wish there wasn't the staffing crisis right now, because I think we really see it take off.
I've been telling them this too, that I feel like the storytelling about it needs some tweaking, because there's such a focus on wow, there's all this opportunity for independence, be community-based, which is awesome, but it's very scary if you have a higher needs kid and or more complicated kid. And so, because it sounds like you're going to rip away what those individuals might need, and that's not actually what is planned for. I think that my analogy was back in the day when inclusion was the beginning of the sort of trend in the educational world, and everybody who had a kid in a self-contained classroom felt like, oh my God, that's going to be taken away, when that actually wasn't the story. It was, we're going to try our best to move people to where their best place was. And that is what I think is more what this is intended to do, is say, okay, let's take someone who doesn't truly need a group home and move them out of that group home if they don't need the group home, leaving more resources available for those who do need it. But that's not necessarily the way the marketing sounds. It sounds a little bit more like, wow, everyone's going to be in their own apartment with some AT. And that's very scary if you're a family who's got a complicated kid. So anyway, that's some of my pet peeve with how the marketing rollout has been, because it sounds a little bit like, whoa, wait a minute. Anyway.
Right. One of the pieces of this is that we are supposed to be working with those families where we're if something doesn't work out, can they go back? And how does that work? And, we're talking about, if we're talking about closing a group home down, but we're going to have that bed available, how is that all going to look?
What's the safety net? Yeah.
Right. So there is discussion about that, which that's good, because I think that's reassuring to the individual and their family that if it doesn't work out, there's something to go back to. And that's been one of the concerns at Southbury. If you leave Southbury, you leave Southbury. And there's been a lot of discussion over the years if could somebody go back? And I think that sometimes deters families from moving forward because they don't think they can go back, and they can't go back at Southbury.
Lori, do you remember that meeting you and I attended with all the racks? I think it was a few years ago, and we left there like blubbering because it was a really good meeting in that they had a woman who was pretty high functioning with Down syndrome and whatever, and she was talking about how unfair it was that she had to be in a group home with people she didn't choose to live with, and she had to eat what they ate. She had to go to bed when they went to bed, and she, the rules were she couldn't have anybody else come in, and she wanted that freedom. And so that was really the direction we're going. And Lori and I are like having heart attacks because we're thinking my son would have hopped a train to New York. I mean, he has to have somebody with him at all times. So I think Marina's spot on. We tend to look at things as all or nothing. And somewhere there has to be that contingency and continuation, kind of like of where the support can be and how it can loosen up without scaring parents to death. Because I mean, we left there going, there's just no way that our kids would be able to do that.
But for that individual,
she was absolutely right. She was absolutely right, but I'm sure her parents felt the same way we did for a while, like she's going to be taken advantage of, somebody's going to, you know what I mean? We always think the worst, but she was right. I mean, she should have been able to be as independent as she could have, safely. And she felt that was unfair. So it was really an eye opener because we really didn't think of it like that. That was a great meeting, but that was several years ago. And it's coming to fruition now,
So that's what I have for my report. I don't know if there's any questions.
All right. If not, I see that we've been joined by Christina, our guest speaker. So maybe we can let her give her, join and tell us all about this initiative that she's part of.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Marina, I don't know if you remember me, but you actually came out with Julie Swanson and did a presentation for my support group years ago at Lark.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
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 the world of special education is very small.
It is, and I knew your name was so familiar. I was trying to figure out where from. Yep.
It's a hard one to forget, and especially because I'm not the singer.
Not that
I was
Christina
gonna
Aguilera.
say, yes.
So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and for having me here. As many of you who are probably parents as well, I've been in this advocacy realm for a really long time. My son Connor, who might pop in and out of the screen, is 11 and he is on the autism spectrum. And even though he is verbal and, has pretty good life skills, he is level 3. He is severe. So he needs a constant one-to-one supervision. He is in a self-contained classroom. We have outplaced and brought him back. So he is the catalyst for much of what I do. I have a neurotypical 14-year-old, and my husband, Adam, is a teacher over in Litchfield Public Schools. And I myself have worked in the field of ABA for over 10 years. So long story short, enough about me. I started TAFA, Torrington Area Families for Autism, as just a parent support group about 7 years ago. When my son was diagnosed, I quickly realized there wasn't a lot of resources in the northwest corner of Connecticut for autism. We were driving really far to get to anything that was modified for families like ours. And I really felt the need to network to not feel so isolated. So figured, if there are opportunity doesn't exist, let's create it. So I worked with Lark since they had a community building, and I started a parent support group there. And about a year, maybe a little less into having the support group, I went to Larry Casella, who was the executive director at the time. And I had said, my parents are really looking for opportunities to get out and be social. And it's hard to take kids out if it's not adaptive and you're not in a group, because we have kids with behavior issues and potty training and, verbal capabilities are all over the place. So we were lucky enough to get Lark to become our fiduciary sponsor for about 4 years. And we were able to do fundraisers through them so that we could provide social opportunities to the families at no cost. So we would do things like days at the science center, movie outings, pizza parties, anything that we could do to get our kids out and about and have families engaging. In 2019, I incorporated as my own 501c3 nonprofit so that we could further expand the mission, which of course, having a social mission and incorporating 5 months before a pandemic that shut down socialization was a challenge. So we've kind of been hitting the ground running ever since and building up. When the pandemic struck, we had about 50 parents on our contact list. We're up to 104. We are constantly growing and evolving. We had 119 people registered for our sensory-friendly Halloween event that we did in partnership with Kids Play. We had 47 people come out for our Friendsgiving event. We had about 60 people at our Christmas party. So primarily what we do is try to provide social opportunities and inclusion to our families. So right now we're running a adaptive dance class in partnership with Center for Dance Arts in downtown Torrington. So that's every Saturday. I have a meeting coming up this week with Greg Briscoe, the CEO of the YMCA. We're trying to start an adaptive swim program. We've done a lot of events with Kids Play. Like I said, we had an adaptive art class in partnership with 5 Points Center for the Arts. So we try to do a lot to get the kids out and socializing and being included in the community as much as possible. Just this month, we signed our first lease on a building space with the intention of starting an actual community center for special needs and autism. And the reason for doing that is when we were collaborating and doing partnerships, we were always kind of at the whim of availability of other people in their spaces. And we started to see that there was a need for more consistent time to have available those type of services and programs. So we just signed our first lease. We're looking to grow and service more families. I had a meeting this morning with Creative Development. They're a therapeutic provider out of Simsbury, and we are trying to maybe do a summer program for kids 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 11 to 14, and 15 to 21. We know a lot of kids are not getting extended school year services as much as they were in the past this year due to the staffing shortages. So we're trying to create some programming around the July ESY. So the last 2 weeks in June, first 2 weeks in August. So just constantly trying to look at what the need in the community is and better service that. And yeah, if you have any questions.
I do, Christina. Maybe
Yep.
I misunderstood when we first spoke. The age range is adults as well?
Yep. So that's what we're trying to get into is the adults. So that's where we're trying to better service like that older, like 21 post. So we're looking to do transition age kids this summer for that summer program, and then have some more adult events out of the community center, like game nights, video game nights, movie nights, karaoke nights. So what we're hoping is having this center, we can better service adults and the young kids during the day when the school age kids are at school.
So is there no age limit then?
No, I mean, right now we have kids as young as 2 and as old as 26. So
Wow. All
yeah,
right.
I
Good.
mean, that was kind of one of the reasons we started doing things like right now, every third Wednesday of the month, we just had it last night, we have a movie night at the library. And one of the reasons we started doing movie nights is it was a good way to accommodate a broad group of ages, because I was getting more outreach than ever from older parents saying like, my kids have aged out and there's absolutely nothing. And most kids like Disney. So it seemed like something easy to accommodate a broad range of kids. But part of the reason for trying to get into a space full time is that, like I said, we can be a little more intentional with programming in that new space.
So what does your space look like? It's just, I'm amazed at,
Yeah.
to me, that's like a giant leap that you
Yeah.
managed that. That's huge that you're
Yeah.
getting your own sort of lease space. And what,
Yeah.
what does it look like? How big is it?
Yeah, it's about 1,200 square feet. And it has we didn't want anything. It was really hard to find commercial space that wasn't kind of cubicled out for business, and we wanted wide open. So we were fortunate to find something on East Main Street in Torrington that is basically 2 big, huge rectangular rooms, about 600 square foot each. The building is where we are is fully handicap accessible. So we have a ramp, an ADA compliant bathroom, doors. We really tried to check every single box. You know, it's
Nice.
ground level. We have private parking. So we have 20 parking spaces available to us that we don't have to be in like a strip mall setting where it's limited. You know, if there's parking and someone has to park across the street, we didn't want anyone crossing major roads with kids that are on the spectrum or have special needs. So far, it seems like it's going to be a perfect fit. This is my little one. Say hi, Connor. Hi. It seems like it's going to be a perfect fit. So yeah, we're just getting in there. And like I said, working on creating that programming. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of support from the community. So we just got a pretty generous grant from Torrington Savings Bank Foundation to provide computers so that parents can research there as well, because we still run our parent support group. That's at the center of everything we do. And that's kind of how we get direct feedback from the parents for what they're looking for. Go get your crust. You can go get it. So yeah, we still have that. That's at the center of everything that we do. So we were able to get from them like tables, chairs, computers. What else did we get from them? A podium, a projector, a screen. So we're really kind of just in the process of setting up with all of the grant stuff that's rolling in. Amazon doesn't guarantee 2-day shipping anymore, so it's kind of trickling in piece by piece. But we just got like a puppet theater and puppet stuff, and one mom donated a Kindle. We're getting a Wii for the older kids. We have a refrigerator. We want to put in like a little hot plate. We have a microwave. We want to get a toaster so we can do some small like cooking stuff with the older kids, so they can make like nachos and popcorn and toast, you know, things that they can do that are safe enough, and that if they're on their own or have some type of level of independence, we can teach them daily living skills. So working out all of the materials that we need to outfit that space for all those different age groups.
And does it cost the parents anything to participate?
Nothing that we have done to date has ever cost our parents anything. Now that we have a space, there might be certain programs, like if we do this summer school program, we're trying to get funding right now. So we just wrote to a couple different grant agencies to see if it would qualify under their grant stipulations. So if we can get it covered, we ideally would never charge for anything. We typically get sponsors for everything that we offer. So like movie nights are free. The parent support group, there's no membership to join.
You do that too, Christina?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot.
A lot.
But
I'm
yeah,
in awe of your fundraising. You must be spending a
Absolutely.
lot of time fundraising and writing grants. Well
a lot
done.
of fundraising, a lot of time in meetings, a lot of time soliciting for sponsorships. Like we were lucky to get a sponsorship from Hartford Healthcare for our dance class. So again, it would have been, I think, about $30 a kid. They didn't pay anything. Because one of the things when we were looking at barriers to people accessing, special services up in the northwest corner, especially in Torrington, it wasn't just the distance to things. It was, we're an economically disenfranchised community. So there's a big discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots. And especially when you have a child who's costing you an exorbitant amount of money to service. And the divorce rate's like 80% in autism. So I had a lot of single moms, they have multiple kids, couldn't drive. So we wanted to bring things closer, but we also didn't want to add a financial barrier if it wasn't necessary. So we just did a sensory friendly movie night with the Warner Theater. They did the Muppets Take Manhattan. And I want to say tickets were like $2 or like something very nominal. Our sensory friendly trick or treat, no charge. Friendsgiving, no charge. So typically we're not charging for anything.
And what
Sounds
about
great.
the area? Can anybody attend, or do you just basically do the kind of the Torrington DERG?
Nope. I mean, we focus on the northwest corner because there's not a lot here, but I've had a grandma come from Farmington. I've had a mom come from Southington. I have parents come from Canton. One of my board members, she's the founder of the TOPS soccer program in Canton, and she runs the adaptive basketball as well. We get a lot of families from Canton, so I'm never going to turn anybody away.
Have you tapped Flamig Farm? Because our kids live there.
I have not, but my son loves Flaming Farm.
Oh my God. Oh my God. My son too.
Yes. Yeah. So just like things like that, trying to build out more of those resources and to bring things more to I wanted to have a physical location because I felt like it really gives parents a hub to kind of identify as somewhere where you belong. And that's so important, somewhere where you just walk in and you take a breath and you know that no one's going to judge you, your child, anything.
Sounds great.
Wow.
For
Before you
it's
joined, we were
impressive.
just talking about Club 203, which you may have heard about or not, down in Fairfield County, that has some similarities to what you're doing, but many differences as well. So
Oh.
I don't know if you ever want to contact and share stories, we can put you guys in touch.
That would be great. I know Connor did back in the day. They've moved since then, but we used to do chapter 126 sometimes in Bristol. Like their rec programs, which is now the Oak Hill School. But we've done Miracle League, we've done Chapter 126, ASRC play groups, the Family Resource Center. I mean, it was like hitting the ground running, finding resources for him. He did adaptive swim at the Plainville YMCA a few times. But again, all of those things were like, 35, 45 minutes from my house. There was really nothing up here. It was really hard to find things. So I'm trying to be a part of fixing that problem.
Of course, our old time members will remind us that this used to be all included with DDS. There was a whole social part of support that went, so now parents have to do it.
Well, and I feel like, honestly, what I say to people is my parents, I think they're so appreciative of what we provide because it's very different when all you're doing is going to therapy centers and sitting in a weight room and you're not really making authentic connections. When you're very intentional about the programs and the opportunities you're setting up and the environment you have them in, parents make very genuine connections and they build each other up as like parent advocates. So taking that leap from a parent to a parent advocate and really becoming fully informed and really being able to push into the community and say, this is what we need as a group. We've seen some amazing friendships and bonds come out of that. Like I had 2 moms tell me this year, their sons were turning 11 and 12. These are the first year we had birthday parties for our kids because before TAFA, we didn't think anyone would come. So just to know that the kids are making friends and the parents are making friends, that connection is huge because the isolation rate for parents, even with kids on the spectrum, is enormous. And then you have all those aces stacking against you when your family is experiencing financial hardship and marital hardship and isolation. And you might have another child who's also feeling the stress of being a typical child and with a non-typical sibling. At my 14-year-old, the reason we started TAFA too was so that siblings could come. So everything that we offer, the siblings are always invited to participate and they network. So it really kind of creates a community in a community, and it's really cool to see.
Well, whatever Julie and Marina said to you a long time ago, maybe we should send them out on the road.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because I had contacted Julie originally when my son was probably about 3 or 4. And I was like, I think I'm going to need an advocate. Like this school battle is so hard. And she was just so empowered. She was like, no, you're doing everything right. Like, just keep going. I don't want to take your money. You can do this. And I just had so much respect for her that when we circled around and started this group, I was like, can you come out and do a training with my parents? And she was like, I'm going to bring Marina. She's fantastic. And they were just both so awesome. And I mean, so much of my inspiration comes from the parents before me because I just completely understand the struggle.
That's good. And you're passing it on, which is nice. It's nice to see.
That's fantastic. Any other questions for Christina? Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. That's fabulous. And anybody who's, in her area, maybe you can pass that info to other families. It'd be easy to find you. Are you online? Are you on
I was just
Facebook?
going to say, yep. So we have a website. It's tafainc.org. So
Okay.
tafainc.org. And we're also on Facebook. We have a pretty strong social media presence. And if you want to email me, it's Tafa, TAFA incorporated, spelled out, at gmail.com.
Great.
Christina, one of my clients from Torrington, and I wish I had more information now. I just saw it on Facebook. He's on the radio. He's doing some kind of thing, and I think that would be just great if you could connect.
Yeah.
And he could tell people about what's available with your organization. So I'll try to find that information and get it to you, because it's like an autism radio show.
Oh, that
Teachers
is it Helen's son, Chase? No, they're out of Waterbury.
Oh, no, it's what the heck is this? No, it's. I mean, one of the first parents that really started doing things in Torrington, Jeanette Broder. I don't know if you know that name.
Did she run La Casa?
Something like that. I mean, she really grew, and her son, who, he's living on his own. He was one of the first kids to do that, the DDS program where he's got his own apartment and everything. And so he talks about it on the radio now. So it was very cool, and it's right in Torrington. I'll try to get you more information. It's going to be easy to remember your name, frankly.
Yes.
I'll find
we
you.
actually have, so April 25th, this Tuesday, this is our third year in a row we do this. So we have really great community partners. We started doing an art show during the pandemic because I was able to drop off supplies and pick them up with safe social distancing, and we've just continued it. So we get donors for the art supplies. We drop them off to the families, and anything that the kids create hangs on the wall for the month of April at Bad Dog Brewing Company to generate autism awareness. We call it our Art on the Spectrum Showcase. And on Tuesday, we're doing a silent auction for the artwork and a pasta dinner fundraiser. So it's we try to think of things like, again, things that, sometimes parents miss out on those typical experiences like dance classes and soccer classes and art shows. If your kid, my son was outplaced for 4 years, I didn't have any of that stuff. So being able to come and do something that typical parents kind of take advantage of having those opportunities is really.
Are you familiar with Families United Newtown? Do you know about that?
Well, I think they just formed, right? I heard from them
it's been around about 10 years now. Her son, I don't even know why she still does it. She's a saint. Her son died from SUDEP, her autistic son, and she's kept it up in his name. She, I think I would have run for the hills and moved to Maui or something, but she still does this group, and they're having a prom 2023 for kids that don't get to go to the prom. That's cool. Coming up. So, I mean, it probably, there should be some kind of like a gathering of all the parents that are doing stuff like this and, trying to get maybe some state funding, for everybody. Because she, again, doesn't charge anything, it's all donation. She has a fundraiser every year. And then the one that Marina's talking about, it's $10 an event or $75 for all the events.
Okay.
So that's how they do it.
Yeah, we do. Our biggest fundraiser each year is our golf tournament, and that typically will generate enough revenue to run most of our programs. And then throughout the year, if we need to for specific programs, we'll solicit for sponsorships, which again, we're very lucky to have like a very, very passionate community that embraces us. Otherwise, this would be much more difficult.
I'm exhausted listening to you. Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'll shut up now.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christina. That was fantastic. All right, so let's see. Next on the agenda is any new business from anybody. Would anyone in the group like to raise some new business?
Well, Charles isn't here, so I will raise his new business is what about parents? What about parents being able to care for their kids if they can't get staffing?
Well, remember that was potentially in one of the bills.
Right.
So that may or may not be taken care of.
Oh,
Or it may or may not be in one of the legislation. It may be legislatively taken care of. So we don't know yet.
If we continue to put it in our minutes, maybe somebody will read it again and say, geez, they're like broken records over in that West region, you know?
Right. Well, so he's right. Obviously, he was researching it from kind of the Medicaid side of things and going down the legal pathway, but it was also inserted in that gigantic Bill 5001. It was one of the many, many, many things that was in there.
Okay.
We don't know if it'll make it, and we don't know because it's going to be rewritten 55 times before it gets to the final vote.
Yeah.
But at least there's some hope that because it was certainly brought up by many families and it was raised by the Speaker of the House and a bunch of other supporters. So maybe there's some hope that legislatively it will be taken care of.
Especially the families that Shannon was talking about where their kids have aged out and there's no program for them. There's no place for them to go right now. And the parents kind of home with the kid that's taken a leave of absence because they can't find staffing for a direct self-direct program. There's no openings at the agencies. So they're taking care of their kid full time until something else comes. I mean, I know I had to do it for 6 months because there was no funding. There was a bunch of staff then, but there was no funding. And now it's just the opposite.
Or sometimes they need medical and there's also severe shortages on medical. So the program might be okay, but.
Right. No, Lori, you and I've been talking about that. That's really, really crucial.
Yeah. Another thing too, we've been finding is that psychiatrists that will take Husky. I know I reached out to Karen and I've been scrolling and looking and everything. So a lot of families, what we're hearing is the wait list is so long. Yeah. They're not taking patients that have Husky. And they're really stuck, especially if they need assessments and things of that nature. And sometimes a neurologist might be able to give a diagnosis, but it's the psychiatrist that's got to come in under a different angle. And so a lot of families in this area are struggling greatly with that. If anybody has any thoughts or ideas on that, or Shannon, if you're aware of anything or somebody that is used to the population that is served by DDS, how could we find that out? Is that just through case management to reach out to the case manager, or is there an internal team that kind of has that information?
I am aware, and I haven't had to use it in a while, of a list of providers that allegedly will take new Husky patients. Now, I haven't had to use it in a while. I'd have to go back and research it's supposed to be clinicians and psychiatrists, psychologists that will
variety.
Right. But I'd have
but
to.
That's the other thing, Shannon. Sometimes even if they take it, you have to pay up front. They don't want to wait for their money and then you have to submit it. And a lot of these parents don't have that kind of money to do up front.
How do they get reimbursed if they do that, Karen? Or they're not, it's just private pay to get them in the door.
It's private pay, but then they'll
then they submit it like an out of network.
Right, like out of network, exactly. And it may take months. Yeah, you can do that.
You can do that with Husky? Okay.
Yeah.
I knew private insurances. I didn't know that Husky would do that.
Do that with Husky too. But it takes forever. And they ask 1,001 questions and they probably will reject it 5 times before they do it, but you can submit it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could find that out for Shannon, that'd be really helpful.
I will.
Thank you.
And is psychiatrist the only category, Lori, that you're finding or you're hearing about as a challenge?
It's some of it too is like neurology, even not so much, but especially when, again, you're dealing with children that are aging out of the public school going into adults. So they might have had pediatric providers, but now they need to look over and start to transfer over to adult providers. So that's another transition.
Like
So-
one of mine, Marina, the one that was dealing for my son, she decided to leave her practice and she's only doing trans kids now. There's so much need.
Wow.
So I had to go find somebody else, because I mean, there's just everything's coming out of the woodwork.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's I've heard a lot of families, those who have kept private insurance for their kids, have the debate about whether to drop private insurance and go to completely Husky. And those who have not dropped it yet, that's the reason why, because they're not sure they're going to have everything they need on Husky.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be able to find a specialist in every possible category? And so I think that's a perfect example.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
When my son turned 26, that's exactly what happened. I mean, everybody dropped us that we were dealing with. We had to go find all new providers and everything. He was on our private insurance up to then, but then it just got too expensive after that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Shannon, if the parents were able to, per se, private pay to get reimbursed or whatever, if they could not do that, is that potentially something that they could approach for a grant or something through DDS assistance to help with that fronted money to get them started?
So you're
that
asking
possible?
if to get their foot in the door, to get reimbursed for what they're
I didn't even
wanting?
I didn't even know they could get reimbursed, so that, but
I think each case would need to be looked at. I know in general, when we've gotten requests for that, we always want to see that it was denied through Title 19 Husky before we're paying that. So I think it would have to be a unique special circumstance. I don't think.
if I'm hearing correct, though, they couldn't even get into the appointment until they're paying. Is that correct, Karen? Or am I misunderstanding?
They want their money up front. Most of the clinicians want their money up front, and then they'll say to you, well, we'll send you the bill, and then you could submit it to Husky and see if they'll pay some of it. Now, like, for instance, for my son, he needs to see a dentist more than what Husky will pay. So, we had it, we were paying that out of pocket and whatever, and then we kept submitting it. It's not a huge amount of money, but they did eventually pay it. Because he has to, I mean, his teeth would rot if he doesn't go, 4 times, because as far as, he's so sensitive in that area, and with diabetes, it can become a real bad health issue. But the paperwork is just beyond, and my son's diabetic, epileptic, and has a lot of, these other issues. So it could be a full-time job just submitting for these things after the fact.
I just know from past experience sitting on our review committee for funding that it would really need to be a unique situation, because generally they're looking for, Title 19 to pay for it, looking for denials before DDS would step in and pay for something.
I'm even surprised that Husky will take that on, because years back, and I'm aging myself here, working in offices and stuff, if it was somebody with Husky, it wasn't even allowed. It had to be Husky, and that's who it went to, and that's it. They could not ask the family for money up front, private pay, because they could legally get into trouble. So, but that, again, I might be aging myself.
Everybody wants their money up front first.
Wow. Yeah, but see, before they couldn't have even done that.
For all of it. You'll get reimbursed for whatever they think it's worth.
Oh boy.
And when they get old enough to need hearing aids, that's going to be really interesting.
All right. So, wow. Other new business. So this is a good one. It'd be interesting. Yeah. Shannon, we'll look forward to hearing whatever you might learn about this. Other new business that the group would like to raise. I think Shannon also addressed old business already, so we covered that one.
I'm not sure if this fits in the category of new business, but I work directly with the parents at St. Vincent Special Needs, and a lot of the issues that are coming up now is the rents are being raised so high, and they can't afford basically to stay in their own apartment, and to get on a list for even low-income housing is almost impossible. And they need accessible apartments, and most of the elderly apartments have only one bedroom. They need more than one bedroom. So it's quite the challenge for them. And even calling 211, they won't help you until you're about 14 days into eviction, and no one wants to get to that point with a disabled child. So that is quite the challenge, and that's what I'm getting, because the landlords are raising the rents so high, and these parents can't afford it.
Is that a particular area, Emily, or everywhere?
So we service about 50 districts in the Fairfield County area, and some West region, and a little bit into South region, St. Vincent Special Needs. So it's a mix of areas.
But it's mainly Fairfield County.
It's mainly Fairfield County. Yeah. There is a mix going into like South region too.
Yeah.
Emily, these are families, not an individual.
No, these are families that have children with special needs. And the majority of our kids at special needs are kids with medically complex issues. And in our school, the majority of them are also in wheelchairs, so they have to be accessible apartments, which is extremely hard for them to just get up and move. So that is a big challenge.
And they have a lot of equipment. So
a lot of stuff, a lot of equipment.
Yeah, we need a room.
I can speak to individuals that were funding their rent subsidy, but it's not a family situation. So it'd be an individual renting an apartment. We are struggling as well through the entire region, no matter where you live, Greenwich all the way up to, the New York border, that we do have a process for the individuals if the rent is above what our cap is, that there's a process that we can go through. But there again, it's not the families, it's the individual that we're funding their rent. So it's a bit of a different scenario than you are expressing.
Yeah, and that's I think that's the issue. Like even like with elderly housing or it's always elderly and disabled housing, and they don't meet that criteria is the issue. And then the regular housing, the accessible apartments, there's only a limited amount of them.
Right. And sometimes you hear the only advice you get is to sign up for the Section 8, vouchers, and then you just wait until and see what shows up.
Wait is very long is the issue.
Yep. There's a lot of luck involved there. Yeah.
And you're competing again with those people that used like a reverse mortgage, to try to pay for home services for the elderly. And then they ran out of money and they need to move somewhere. I don't know, I'm always just such a positive, let's talk about something positive. But, in Stratford anyway, there's a real competition for that now, because there's a lot of people looking for senior housing that either they sold their house for money. I don't know how it works. With the reverse mortgage, I don't know, they have to get out and they have to move somewhere, and so they're vying for the same type of residences that our kids are vying for. And again, with wheelchairs and everything. So the population, is getting older, and autism rates are growing, and wow. And yet Elon Musk went to the moon, or tried to go to the moon, and crashed his space shuttle, which probably cost him a few billion. So aggravating.
Yeah, this is hard. I don't know of any other resource if anybody else can think of anything. And unfortunately, rents are so much higher sometimes than what a mortgage would be. But again, family's not in that position to purchase.
Right.
So that this could become really crucial, because if they get displaced, where are they going? If there's no place for them to go, and that's going to be, that's the bigger worry in all of it.
That if they, because, if they get evicted, because I've had some families on that urge of, being homeless, where they have a medically fragile child, they're afraid to go into homeless shelter, is the other issue.
Of course. And then they become a DDS emergency, which is not where anybody wants to go.
Right.
So, yeah, fair point. Other new business to raise for anyone to put on the?
The only thing I guess I feel compelled to bring up as we're talking about medical issues is that as my daughter has aged, she has had needs for gallbladder surgery, and so she's needed a gastroenterologist. And as you alluded to earlier, when their pediatric needs are, there are many more doctors, but there really aren't doctors who are sensitive or knowledgeable about special needs individuals as we get into specialties, if you wish, like gastroenterology. And yes, she needs hearing aids, and yes, she has cataracts, and it's a whole nother realm to try to find doctors who have experience with those issues as our individuals age. So that's my thing.
Arlene, Emily and I were on a meeting with our Stratford or St. Vincent's adult parents, and that was the exact thing they raised, talking about especially going to in a hospital setting, emergency room, if they're not familiar, or it's just most won't even ask, how can I approach, what would be the best way, and it's such a shame. So they want to kind of elevate it and see where they can go with it, and hopefully Emily's going to try to guide them through that process. But that's a whole other thing, and maybe just even a thought. I know, Shannon, before previously, if somebody was in a group home setting and they had to go into the hospital, staff was always with them. That was especially during, I don't know, but COVID, but prior to that time anyway. Is that still the case if somebody is in a group home setting? And if there's no family?
The group homes are required to send their staff into the ER up until the point they're admitted.
And then what happens after
The
that?
hospital assumes responsibility and is supposed to be, if the person needs a sitter, if it can get a sitter in. Now, sometimes families will go in and sit themselves. Sometimes group homes will have somebody just stop by. It's a rare occasion now that we're funding somebody to stay in a hospital. One, they don't have the manpower to do it. And then there's been some issues around liability of what they can do versus what a hospital staff can do. So the minimum requirement is they're supposed to see them through until they're admitted through the ER.
But previously they used to have staff available if family couldn't come in, correct?
Often they did, but there were some providers that they couldn't do it or didn't do it. So, it was more frequent in the past. Now it's a rarity. It's usually a special situation.
Yeah, that's a little scary. I mean, I understand, but it's a little scary if there's nobody around, and because sometimes if the hospital staff isn't aware or have some background, that's terrible. Wow. Oh, got to work with the hospitals next.
I have a question. In Connecticut that offer specialized, I know when my son was having GI issues, I think it was Massachusetts General or Boston General, Mass General, whatever is in Boston. They have a GI for kids on the autism spectrum. They have a whole autism center with specialists in it. I think Hospital for Special Care might have some specialists like that, but is there anything that does that for adults? We have children's hospitals with all different specialists, and we have autism children's places and Center for Kids with Special Needs, but there's nothing that does that for adults? Because
when my daughter was going through it, I called all over the state.
Yeah.
her gastroenterology issues. I mean, her gastro issues, and nope, nothing. And it was, you know, terrifying to me.
Because if hospitals have like bring in like kind of have specialists centralized in one location, even if parents drive, Connecticut's a small state. Even if parents had to drive, I'm sure they would
You're
do that.
cutting. I don't.
You're breaking up, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I'm sure that if at least one hospital picked up on specializing in adults with special needs, parents would drive to that.
So that in our meeting today, that's what the parents discuss, our adult parents discuss, because technically St. Vincent Special Needs is owned by Hartford Healthcare. So our parents want to start there to bring the awareness onto hopefully Hartford Healthcare, so that hopefully as the hospitals can spread it. So we're going to start with the CEO of St. Vincent Special Needs to hopefully work our way up to Hartford Healthcare to bring the awareness that these, you know, we are here, and people need to cater to us really, and be aware that of our population, because what's happening is when we're going into the hospitals, you know, our individuals can't wait 8 to 9 hours in an emergency room, and that's what is happening. And there's doctors that are not sensitive, and they don't understand how to work with our population. So they really want to go up and try to teach some kind of way to make the awareness that it's definitely needed. So we're going to start with Hartford Healthcare. Let's see what happens.
Our Director of Health Services in the West Region, Judy Blanchette, has done a lot of hospital reach out to, but it seems once she starts making headway, it's a new administration, new physicians. So she's always in this mode of reaching out, and, you know, around DNRs, around our folks in general. It's a job in itself. Given the size of the region and the multiple hospitals.
Is that someone we can connect with, just to kind of talk to her and kind of, or see, you know, because why start a conversation? Maybe we can join her conversation, you know? And be helpful with that.
I can, Marina, as the co-chair, I can ask her to attend our next meeting.
That's a great idea.
To have some further discussion with the group. She can hear what you have to say. She's really a hands-on person. She has no problem going out and meeting people when we're struggling. Like I said, she has spent a lot of time with the area hospitals trying to, whatever the issue is. I mean, whether it's DNRs or just.
That's a great idea. And maybe we can bring that to this region as well. I mean, it's the same sort of thing that airlines have started doing to sensitize their flight crew to passengers with special needs, and it's sorely needed in the hospital and you know, medical system. So yeah.
And I think pediatrics tends to be a little better. I know, like even like Buffalo Medical Emergency Room has, to their children's hospital, has a whole area, like a whole wing set up for kids with special needs, whether it's sensory, the lighting, whatever. So if you're coming in with that child, that's an area you're going to go to, and those staff have received extra training for that. And you know, all the physicians go there, they get all the care they need to get. But it's not, doesn't carry over into the adult world. And I think that's so hard because, of course, you know, all of us as parents are aging, and someday we're not going to be able to sit with our child. So if we can find out this, that would be something good, and something if we could maybe join her efforts in some way, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So Eunice, do we have anyone else from the public on? We're moving to opportunities for public participation.
No one else from the public is.
Yeah, you had Emily.
Right.
And I'm trying to convince Emily to join the RAC because she's been fantastic. She took over the family center right at the start of COVID, 1 month before COVID started, and she was on her own flying. And Shannon, I could tell you, I think she had so many applications for DDS, and she'd be out passing them with a stick to the families to get things done. So,
all right. Hopefully we haven't scared her off.
No, I don't think so.
All right. Any other things to raise for anybody before we I think move to adjournment? Last
Can
call.
I just ask that Lori stay on the call after? I have to touch base with her about something else.
Sure.
If that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. All right, good. Then seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn. Say we've had a lot of good stuff to talk about today. This is fun. Motion to adjourn, anybody?
I motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
See
Thank
you all next time. Hey, it was
Thank
great meeting
you.
you.